I have always seen spirits, I have always seen and felt presences, and I have always been able to determine their vibe. I've always been able to see them. On a whole other level, there are spirits that I have seen that have never had an earthly body. I have seen death before. I have seen death, I think, 2 or 3 times. Something I want to say about the feeling of death, or maybe it was a messenger of death, I don't know, but the way I saw death was just, it does not feel partial. It doesn't feel biased. Death felt like a very ancient spirit, a force of nature. Death felt like it was the captain of an armada, but it felt neutral. It didn't feel evil, but it felt powerful. There's a difference, because I felt evil. This lacked evil. This was neutral and very powerful. And I've been through things where I overstepped my boundaries with death, and it caused problems. This part's a little difficult to talk about. A few years ago, I had been with someone at their bedside as they were dying of cancer. I was with them through the later parts of their cancer, when they were already in hospice, and I was young and I didn't know any better, and I was still hoping and putting a lot of energy into just healing and, this person coming out of it. And one of the days that I was there, we were just trying to give good vibes and praying and being there watching over her. I looked over to the doorway and I saw something crossing back and forth, just pacing right outside the door. I had seen things like this before, so I was very ballsy. So I went up to the door frame, I laid both hands on each side of the door frame, and I looked at it. I looked at it as it passed, and it was this shadowy, cloaked presence. And I spoke to it mentally. I addressed it, and I told it to leave. I told it to get out. I told it to things that you would say to, let's say, a demon or some inhuman spirit that wants to cause harm and things like that. And it turned to me. It looked at me. I felt cold, and I almost felt like it had told me that there was no getting rid of him. Because I spoke to it in that way, it would take something like a punishment, like learn your place, and it left. In my mind, I was just like, I'm good. There's nothing that, nothing's gonna come up and hurt me. But a day later, one of the other people in that group had a perfectly healthy pet, and their pet just randomly dropped dead. This was like a really subtle and painful way of saying, don't fuck with me. And a couple days after that, the person who had cancer passed. I learned a certain respect for death because it wasn't even my pet. I was very connected spiritually in my younger years. A month prior to that happening, I was in meditation right here on this bed. I was sitting, I was praying, it was daylight, and somewhere in that meditation, I opened my eyes and I looked out the window and I felt a swarm, like a swarm of bees coming. And as I looked out the window, I saw that it was just this giant gray mass of horses galloping. They came in through the window and they started circling the room, and I felt myself surrounded. In the way that they were circling the room, it almost looked like a war tactic, like they were flaunting, like they were tell the messenger, this is how powerful we are, and they were trotting and just going around me and showing themselves how powerful to be. And I'm looking at it and I don't know what it means. I don't know what they're trying to do. I don't understand it. And I looked to that very corner and I see just one of them standing. And it was dressed in this, it looked ancient. It was just this Middle Eastern, I'm not sure, like Jesus times, dressed with this hood covering its mouth. And it was staring at me. And it stared at me confidently. And it almost didn't have to say anything. They had a very proud, like everyone knows us type thing. It reached over and revealed what was behind the piece of cloth that was over its mouth, and it was just this unhinged, rotting, horribly just grotesque and falling apart mandible. Like it was showing me that it was poison, that it was rot, that it did this, and it was proud, and it looked at me with these eyes that I swear I will never forget, and just left. And when it left, I came to understand that what I just saw was cancer, was just a legion. It was this powerful force, also sickness, just coming in, presenting itself, and leaving. And I had no idea what that meant. I was like, am I gonna get cancer? And why did it just make this giant show in front of me and reveal itself, hey, I have cancer, and leave? What is that? And a month later, that's when cancer became a very prevalent part of my life because of this person that had cancer and the amount of hours that I spent thinking and praying and just trying to be there for that person. Yada, yada, yada.